So we'll start the session.
Sure.
Menas, maybe when you just let us know when you can go live.
So I think we can wait for 2 more minutes because I see that people have just started logging in. So
No.
we have 92 people already logged in. So the moment we hit 100, I think we should start with the session.
Oh, great. Sure, Menas. Sure. So Anand sir, you have in the when during the trial run, you have presented your slides. You are able
Yes.
to move it clearly
Yeah,
and all.
I had already tried it up in the last time, but I'll just share my screen and I think I'm sharing my second screen, so it should be all good. I think, yeah, this is good. And rest of the thing is
Good.
all nice. Now, we have been doing so much of presentations on all the
But
things.
we are 103, so I think we are good to go. Meanwhile, people will keep joining.
Yeah, Anand sir, maybe just request, maybe you can flash it later on. So just I
Sure,
will
sure.
just the context stating and just introduce you.
Sure, sir. Sure, sir. Sure, Tinker, sir. That would be
That's
great.
good. So I'll do the just context setting introduction, and then I'll hand over to to you.
Sure, sir. Thank you.
So Menas, just let me know when to go live.
So we are live already.
Okay. Thank you. So hope I'm audible.
Yes.
Madhuri.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks very much. And hello and greetings to everyone. To introduce myself, I am Tinku Padia, President of IIA Hyderabad chapter. First, I would like to extend a warm welcome to all our participants on the behalf of IIA Hyderabad chapter and IIA India as well. And also very excited and happy to see today a large number of participation. I've been told that we have around 350 registrations, and very happy to see that numbers is keep on rising during this live session. The structuring of today's session would be as follows. First, a context setting and a brief introduction to the speaker. Secondly, our speaker will, Mr. Anand, would further elaborate on the topic. And next, after the presentation of the speaker, what we will do, we have a dedicated separate slot for Q&A. Would welcome your participation in them. And also during the session, if you have questions, please keep on posting this question in the chat as well. And last but not the least, we have the vote of thanks and closing remarks by Ms. Madhuri, and she is our Vice President of IIA Hyderabad chapter. This is the whole structuring for the today's webinar. And just to also to set the context for today's session. So today we have a very interesting and emerging topic that is artificial intelligence in internal audit. So in this rapidly evolving world of auditing, innovating technologies have revolutionized traditional practices. So notably, artificial intelligence has emerged as a key disruptor with potential to reshape the accounting and assurance practices. In fact, this machine learning languages programs can efficiently scan through extensive financial data. They can detect anomalies such as duplicate payments, fraud indicators, providing valuable insights from data analytics. This ultimately enhances the audit quality and effectiveness. So with this background, I would like to welcome and introduce our eminent speaker, Mr. Anand Jangir, to further enlighten this evening. I'll just introduce the speaker as well. Mr. Anand is a passionate evangelist for tech disruption based in risk, audit, and finance domain. Anand is a professionally chartered accountant and a certified system auditor. He's a managing partner at AJA, an organization with focus in the area of risk analytics, fraud analytics, machine learning, and blockchain for business in North America and India. Anand was part of a risk management team at the Goldman Sachs, covering multiple audits across geographies for different functions in organizations. His areas of specialization were forex audits, DP audits, anti-money laundering, Basel II, BCP, and operational risk. Prior to Goldman Sachs, he was also working with ES Consulting Group at Infosys Technology, Bangalore. And here he was involved in the development of regulatory compliance framework for various compliance like Sarbanes-Oxley Act, etc., and was part of team that developing solution for Basel II Accord implementations. His responsibility include working in sync with project of Infosys Consulting Dallas as well. And he has been involved in enterprise risk management implementation and IT audit for many international projects at US, UK, Japan, and etc. So his other professional interest is he's a visiting faculty for IIM Bangalore, National Forensic Science University, a BML Munjal University, teaching risk analytics, fraud analytics, and IS audit. And he's an expert member on various committees of IRDAI, ICAI, and ISACA as well. So with this, I would like to welcome Mr. Anand and to take these proceedings further. Over to you, Mr. Anand.
Thank you, sir. And it's always a pleasure. And thanks a lot for a very elaborate introduction. And I know sir is traveling, but despite that, he has taken a time out. So really thankful for that. And it's a pleasure to be, sharing my thoughts today. So I'll just share my screen and dive into the subject immediately. So very good evening, everyone, and welcome to the session. It's actually very nice to see a lot of our folks out there today. And as the topic goes today, it's actually one of the book which I'm right now writing on AI in IIA, and that's how the whole idea came out. Because if you see, this is like a inverted thing, artificial intelligence and AI in IIA is something which is, we are hearing a lot of that. A lot of things are coming up there. And there are a lot of, I would say, learnings, because it's not like, day one, everything start working in the way which we want to do. So I thought like today's discussion, we will try to focus on two main things. And that would be like, if I have to give it to you, the first part I will actually try to talk about is what is the reason and what are the different types of AI practices which are coming in existence and what we are seeing around us. And the second part is, which is very important, is what I call it as, the key takeaway for all of us. So the agenda which I have decided for us to have, because it's more of a knowledge sharing, and I look forward to have a very interactive session, because I'm sure a lot of you who are actually there have been doing some bits and pieces out there. In fact, in my organization, we call it up like, I hope you've heard about something called Google Graveyard. You can actually go to a site called Google Graveyard if you search on that. And Google Graveyard are basically not the solution which has actually been successful for Google, but they are the products and other things which they tried and they failed. And they keep a listing of all that, things out there, because they are learnings. It's not a failure, what I would say. I would say they are basically something they learned that, okay, these are the things which work, these are the things which don't work. So we will start with understanding the genesis. That's something which we all have to understand, where we are coming from and what are the things. We need to also understand the AI, what we see today, from the days of expert systems to LLMs right now, large language models. I'm sure ChatGPT is something which has become standard for all of us. But still, IIA and corporates are like taking it like, okay, we should be very careful how we use it, because they're confidential data. But I don't know how many of you have used H2O.GPT, which actually you can install on your machine and actually play with that. And I will like to show you some use cases of that, because all these things are various branches of AI which is coming up there. Now, it's on us, how do we use it and we take that forward. So that's going to be our second part, the evolution, what has happened, so that we understand the whole picture in a proper way. Third, which I thought would be very, insightful for all of us, and we can discuss, and I'm ready to take some, counter views also, but how we can leverage the power of AI. That's something which is very important, because what happens is a lot of packaging has happened of a lot of products as AI, and what has been pushed out there. And later, when we don't see value, or the management doesn't see value for that, it's something which actually fizzles down. So we need to actually, differentiate between what is AI and what is not an AI, and how we can leverage it up. And I can tell you one thing, the amount of expectation which is coming from on the risk functions, on the AI, IA functions today, we have to get done more in the same amount of time which is there. And that's where it comes into picture as a kind of, I would say, a very, very powerful sidekick, is something like Batman and Robin. So if IA function is the, Batman, they require a support of Robin many point of time to deal with all that kind of thing. So we have that kind of thing, we can leverage it up. And then I will try to show a couple of use cases, across different lines. One of the areas which are different areas of AI. I don't want to just focus on one area. Let's try to see it up. It's more of a generic discussion and all the things. And we'd like to hear also from you what you guys are doing, what are the areas you are playing with that. And last would be AMA, Ask Me Anything, which is like Q&A kind of thing. We feel free to have any of your questions at that point of time. So that's the agenda which we have figured it out. I see questions coming, but let's keep the questions and, you can give me your questions there. We will actually keep on seeing it up as and when it comes, and we can take that forward. So that's the agenda for today, and that's how we are going to take that forward. So directly jumping into the genesis part. Now, the genesis part is something which is very interesting. So it's something, I not recently, it's actually close to 6 months back, I visited one organization, which is called IIPM, Indian Institute of Petroleum Management. And this is located somewhere in Gurgaon. It's actually a training facility for Indian Oil Corporation, very large. It's a Fortune 500 company. And there was a very interesting, term which was mentioned at the reception of that organization. And when I'm saying it's a very interesting term, they have actually put it up on the reception, a mural, a very simple statement saying change, ... before you are forced to change. Now, it actually made me thinking that this is a Fortune 500 company. They are like huge Indian corporation. And they are actually talking about this concept that change before you are forced to change. Because proactiveness which comes up is something which is very important. And that's something exactly which, John F. Kennedy also says, that change is the law of life. And those who only look at the past or the present are certain to miss the future. And that's exactly what I want you not to do. Because I'm telling you, we all have come a long way. I see a lot of folks in the session today. We are very senior. They have seen the whole evolution of IA function across unit. From the time when IA was just for the sake of that, with the more SOX and other things, we have seen a long way we have come. But what we see in the future is going to be very different than what it has been in the past or the present. And that's something which we need to understand and appreciate, friends, in terms of how it is going. And that brings it to a very interesting, I would say, artifacts. I will use the word artifacts, and I don't subscribe to all of them, but I just thought it's good to you share, you know about that artifact. Some of you would have actually heard me talking about that, because I'm very passionate about these two areas. And I actually talk at many forums about these things. And this is a book by Richard Susskind called The Future of Profession. And it talks about doctors, lawyers, and auditors and accountants worldwide. And they actually talk a very interesting thing of how the whole concept of technology is changing these professions. Let's take the example of doctors. It was a medical profession per se, was something which was very, very tightly controlled and all things. And now we have this whole concept across the world of paramedicals or paralegal in the lawyers. Basically law was something which was only some people can actually practice it at that. And now it has been thrown open for everyone to basically get into that. So we have come a long way in these things. And the same thing is happening with the profession of, I would say, auditing and accountancy. If you see the whole basic fundamental, which we all are aware of, it was a specialized function. But with the business changing, and when I say the business is changing, I always sometimes quote about this very famous, thing. If you can go and check on YouTube, there is something called Amazon Go Store, and I'll actually put it in the chat also in case someone would like to visit it up. It's called Amazon Go Store. And you can actually go and see that video about that. It's basically a store where you don't have no cash out thing. You just walk in with scanning your QR code of your mobile phone. You just go inside, you pick up whatever you want, and when you are going out, it automatically deducts it from your bank account. Now, I actually first visited this, one of my friend who works for Amazon, and it was something which is like, I have never imagined a business like that, because we used to have a supermarket, you would have a cashier, you would have inventory management, you have all that kind of things which is going on. And now you have a store where you have just put the thing. They are using a lot of machine vision, deep learning, and all that kind of thing to basically drive a business. Now it basically changes everything. Now, if I have to, let's say I'm the, internal audit manager at Amazon, and I have to audit the risk and understand the risk profile and other things about that. and the riskiness of the store is going to be very different than what we can think of. And we all do understand that as an IA function, we are always seeing how the business is working, because the business is changing. We have to change it up there. And that exactly is coming up in this book of Features of Skill, which is very interesting, and you should read about that. The second thing is a very interesting piece of insight, which just came in May 2023. If you get a chance, it's freely available, downloadable. Around, this is around 237 pages. I actually went through top to bottom because I was more interested. My daughter is in 12th, and I was thinking what she should be doing afterwards. So I was more interested as a parent to see what are the future of jobs. And this actually opened up my mind. This document set up like, okay, this is interesting. A lot of things, we hear it again and again, which is actually more of a media hype that, oh, these jobs are going away because of AI, these jobs are going. I won't say the jobs are going away. What is going away is the traditional way of doing things are going away. You have, I'm sure a lot of you are here who remember the time when spreadsheet or Excel became mainstream, right, Madhuri? There was a time when all these things came. So a person who knows macros and all thing was a person in more demand. He knows how to deal with that thing. And that exactly is happening. We have a new set of technology. How do you deal with that? And it's going to be more important that we understand that technology is not going to replace or anything as such, but it's something which is working it out. And if you read the Future of Job report, exactly the same thing it brings it out, that it requires more people who understand or who are more techno-functional, who understand how they can leverage technology. That is my point, that we should be leveraging it up. And that's something which becomes very important. So this two piece of document also refer to one very important concept, which I'm sure 90% of the people know here, but I just love to talk about that. And that is what we call it the fourth industrial revolution, because that is actually a very important genesis altogether. If you read this two material, the reference is always, and fourth industrial revolution is something which is focused by World Economic Forum. You go to World Economic Forum website and you see only talking about fourth industrial revolution. In fact, there are some author who have started talking about the fifth and the sixth industrial revolution also, but I'll not go into that because I just go with what is the mainstream guys are talking about. Now, we all know that we have come a long way from the steam-based first industrial revolution, which happened in 1784, to till today what we have that. And I'm sure each of them has a very unique way of that. If you all remember, we had the first industrial revolution, which was mostly powered by steam engines, and we have mechanizations and all that things happening all across the thing. But what was very interesting in this whole process was that there were a lot of people who used to go and go against them, against the revolution. Like, you're not going with the flow, you're going against the flow. Let me give you an example here. How many of you heard about a word? Let me put it in the chat for all of you if you can actually see. Oh, no, the chat is not for everyone. Let's see if I can actually put everyone here. It's called Luddites. Anyone has heard this word called Luddites? No? Luddites is a very interesting word, which is used in the first industrial revolution because this was the protest group of skilled laborers. So they are the people who are in the weaving and garment industry. They used to go around destroying the new factories which are being set up, because when these factories are there, it basically means one thing and one thing only, that the jobs of our other folks are gone. Now, in that case, they used to go and destroy it up, but it was always much cheaper to set up a new machine, a new setup, than to hire the skilled labor. So people didn't do that. And we have seen the second industrial revolution. I'm sure all of you have watched this favorite movie of mine, which is called The Modern Times by Charlie Chaplin. And in The Modern Times, you see that guy going into the machine, coming up, and all the mass productions, assembly line, and all that kind of thing. And that movie came something around 1934, and that was the peak of the second industrial revolution. And then, friends, we went to Industry 3.0, which all of us have already experienced, right? All of us have seen that happening, and we know that computers and electronic. And to quote one of the very interesting talk I have actually heard is by C.A. Ramesh, who was earlier MD of Deloitte in India. He has talked at Bombay Chartered Accountants Society. If you get a chance, his YouTube videos are there online. And he talked about something called as the future of audit. It's a very interesting talk. And I personally like the talk a lot. And I'm just quoting what he said in that. And he said, if you take two industry segments, let's say, this is by Mr. Ramesh, he said, if you take, let's say, an industry segment of automobile represented by Volkswagen, and you take a company like IBM representing the computer industry, the amount of innovations and upgradation which happened in the computer, electronics and all things, if that would have happened in the automobile industry, today we would have a car which will go around the world with 1 liter of petrol and not require any maintenance all its life. And that never happened. So we can actually assume very clearly that automobile industry couldn't do that innovation, which the computers and electronic industry did it. And then we reach today, what we call it as the fourth industrial revolution as per World Economic Forum and all things. They said we entered it into 2017. And you have to understand that this dates which are mentioned out here are the entry dates. Like you just enter into that and then the peak comes. So, 1870, we started with the second industrial revolution, but the peak took 60 years to come. So it took in 1930, it actually got the peak out there. So they said as per them in 2017, we entered into the fourth industrial revolution. We entered. Now it will take some time to come at the peak. But what does it talks about is very interesting. It talks about cyber physical system. It talks about Internet of Things. It talks about networks. It talks about big data analytics. It talks about smart manufacturing. Now, all these things which are there, they may look like very common, but they are very special. Let's take one of them, cyber physical system. Now, when we talk about the cyber physical system, this is like trying to say that are the machines actually machines? Let me give you two examples, which is my favorite also. What would you say? A Tesla, is it a car or a machine? Is it a car or a computer? How do we basically divide it up there? So it's very tough. A Tesla, if you just try to value it up as a car, it's not just a car. It's actually much more than that. Am I right? You cannot say that it's just a car. So Kelvin raised his hand. Kelvin, you can put it in the chat. You have anything to say? Okay. Please feel free in the chat. Okay. Or in the question answer, I can actually answer your question. Okay, no, there was just by maybe mistake. Okay. So
and just sorry, I was sorry. I thought we can take questions in the end, just not
okay,
to
okay. Sure. Okay.
interrupt the flow and also to save time.
No problem. Okay, great. Thanks, Madhavi. So yeah, please put it in your Q&A, Calvin, and we will take those in the last. For sure, don't worry. We are keeping half an hour for that.
Yeah.
Okay, my bad. I'm sorry. I was not aware chat is disabled. Okay.
Please continue.
Sure. Thank you. So coming back, the cyber physical system is a very interesting thing. Now, something which comes to my mind is these machines like, so you can put it in the Q&A, guys. Okay. So something like, think of Siri. Yeah, I'm sure an iPhone you have Siri or Alexa. Now, I was doing that experiment during the lockdown. I asked Siri, who's your father? The first time it will say Steve Jobs. Sometime it will say the engineers at Apple built me up. Now, if you try to ask this question multiple times, it's very interesting. Siri becomes angry. If you ask it more than 30 times, so try it out. If you don't believe me, it becomes angry. Its tone changes and it says, don't you have any better things to do? Now, it's a machine, right? It is supposed to do X, Y, Z. Why it is asking those kind of things? Why is showing emotions and all the things? Now, all across us, we are actually, I would say, encircled with all these machines, which are cyber physical system. I saw something very interesting recently. I have an Alexa at home, and my mom used it for, like morning. She would say it's in Hindi. It has support for Hindi, and my mom will say, Alexa, play this one or play something else, and all that kind of thing. And one day, my mother was really angry and she told in Hindi, Alexa to marja, like it's basically Alexa go and die, because it was not understanding. My mom wanted this Vishnu Sahasrama, and it was not understanding. 2-3 times mom said. So when my mom said, "Are Alexa to marja," Alexa says, "Are shub shub bolo." Now, come on, this is a machine. There could be some prompting which could have been done. Maybe this is the answer. They have been feeded it up. But imagine there can be thousands of different things, and it is able to come out with "Are shub shub bolo." That is like a kind of a human to human talk. You basically say, "Don't say all these bad things" and all that kind of thing. So interesting things which are happening in cyber physical system. With Internet of Things, we have more machines connected now than what we call it as, Yeah, Santosh, you'll get the PPT. I'll just you can drop me a mail, I'll send it to you. So what happens is this Internet of Things and networks, these are something which are changing a lot of things. Now, one thing which is very interesting is the big data analytics. And I will talk a little bit more of that a little later, so I'll not go here. And the last one is my, the new thought process which has come. I'm sure all of you remember this Apple. I used to be a big fan of. I used to be because till Steve Jobs was there. I was in Japan and I used to stay in the queue and buy this, iPod 1 GB black color used to come and all things. That used to be a kind of a time. But have you noticed that when they said iPod, you can have your name engraved on back of that? It was a big thing because humans always like to personalize things. So smart manufacturing is that kind of thing. If you actually have seen this in automobile sector, it's already happening. Maruti has a car, multiple car brands are there, Baleno and all things, but they have a showroom called Nexa. You can buy a Maruti car from Ignis and other thing only from those showrooms. Now, what is that? The beauty about that is it is actually every car will be customized for you. This is the new trend that is not mass assembly line. It is everything we call it is made to order. And that is kind of the future which is coming when people want it up. And the industries of the world are getting ready for, knowing how to deal with that. So this was all the genesis part which came into that. Now, the second thing which actually is leading the kind of driven, I would say, the drive toward AI, and which is very important for all of us to understand, is this slide. It took me a lot of time to make all these things out here because this slide actually is having, different sections of solutions which are available, which is basically open source. Now, basically, when I say open source, it basically means free. You can say that. But more than that, you can actually go and check this systems out. I used to see this enterprises having a big issues with open source for a very long time. I was in Infosys for a very long time, and we used to have enterprise clients and all things. And they said, "Arey, this is open source. No, it is not safe." But things have changed. It is this. What you're seeing is a kind of a little bit of universe of all open source tools, and they are all enterprise-wide. Like, I don't know if you have heard about Cassandra. This is one of the data warehousing and database tool which powers the whole Facebook. If you have heard about something on MongoDB as a database, MongoDB is a database which is actually having your Aadhaar data right now. So imagine Government of India believes an open source tool to basically manage one of the most important identification project of the country. And we are seeing more and more enterprises are going for it. And that leads to something which I call it up if I have to actually use a word here, it is democratizing the whole ecosystem. Democratizing basically means, from my perspective here, that you may be a multi-billion-dollar company or you may be a small company. All are going to have the same amount of access to the technology what you require to deal with them. So there is not going to be any challenges whether you're there. Like, for example, when I was in Infi, we used to have a CRM system which was like on SAP CRM. It requires a lot of, I would say, analysis, a lot of, it was costing, if I'm not wrong at that time, something around 7 to 8 crores to basically run that up and take that forward. Now we have come from that to today, you have the same CRM systems available in a SaaS model. We call it software as a services, where I can actually take 2 user license and 3 user license, and I have all the same facilities which a multi-billion-dollar company may have, and I can actually do that, in a way that I can actually deal with that. Now, all these things leads to something which we call it a capacity for you to deal with large volume of data. When I say large volume of data, I already gave you the example, Netflix, Facebook, they use Cassandra. There are other solutions which are being used out here. All these things are basically doing that up here. Yeah. And the idea is they are very, very powerful solution. When I say powerful solution, what can be more complex than MongoDB? You can see it on your screen here. MongoDB is out here. You can see this one. I'll just try to annotate out. Now, in this kind of solutions, which is there, or Cassandra here, they all are basically allowing you to deal with that. And gone are the days. I remember I was, I used to be working in a lot of audit function myself. And I do remember there was a time when you required to have very heavy machines and all the thing. But today, like if you have seen, there is something called on your thing Hadoop, which actually allows for more or less, if I have to very crudely put it up across, parallel processing, which means I can actually use an i5 machine with a 16 GB RAM to do something which a server class machine was actually doing earlier. Now, all these things are really, really very, very powerful. And that leads to the second part of our discussion, that how does this make it easy? It actually allows you to deal with large amount of data. It allows you to deal with external data set. Now, external data set is something we all have been told in audit. If you have some data from enterprise and some data from outside, I'll actually put more trust on the external data and try to see that one, why there is a kind of a issue. Now, there was no way earlier we could actually deal with or understand that part. But today, you have solutions which can, basically go. And they are called as nowadays, I don't know how many of you heard this term, and I would highly recommend you to please put it out there. They are called low code, no code platform. Low code, no code. No one wants to do programming anymore, and no one wants to hire IT guys to do the stuff out there. So the idea is you actually enable your team to do all these things yourself. And that is the low code platform, which any person who wants to know with them can understand. Like you have, Power Automate from Microsoft, 9, all this kind of tools. You can see these are the tools which are available for anyone to basically deal with them in a detailed way. So all these things are changing the way we look in terms of all of that process. Now, third one, which is the most interesting, is dealing with unstructured data, PDF files, image files. Image processing used to be a big, big problem. Reading video files and trying to make sense of that. So these are unstructured data. Earlier, we used to always say, oh, the data should be in a database format. I can just do it up and all thing. I was actually attending one of the IIA Global Conference, which happened in New York some time back. And we had one very interesting session with the head of audit of AIG, global head of audit. And he was asked a question. There was an AMA session. And the AMA session, the question was, what is the biggest challenge in data science? What do you face? And his answer was getting the data ready for our analysis, because all other things are easy. We know what analysis we want to do, but there are data in so many different formats. To bring them in a kind of a ETL, we call it, and take them up, it is a big problem. Now, those are the challenges which has come a long way for us, including statistical modeling. And, I remember I was in Goldman Sachs, and we used to use one solution called Benish model. Benish model is a very powerful solution. We wanted to know which subsidy we want to go and review before we are planning our audit universe for the next year. So we used to use the statistical modeling tools. Now, those are a solution today, because most of us, we stay at Benford and other things, and we just say, oh, that's good, great, it's giving us good result. But there are amazingly powerful and simple solution which can actually help us there. I'll come to machine learning later, and there are real-time analysis and interactive visualization. And we see a lot of visualization tools which are being told as analytics, but I would like to differ on that. This is my take. I know this is nowadays, there is a new term. The data science has gone, data analytics has gone. We have a new term called DX, which comes everything under the, when you're doing with data, we'll deal with that. But they are data visualization tool. It visualizes very well. Yes, it's always great to have a nice visualized tool, but analysis is a different ball game from other things. So this open source revolution actually allows us to deal with all of them in a much easier way. And that also brings up to our next part, which is very interesting. Let me just remove this, the drawings. So I want to show you this new concept which has come up now. We call it as the Finance 4.0. or you can actually put it up in Audit 4.0, but it's like driven from the concept of finance. So it's actually, they said there are 5 main driving point of dealing with this. If you are wanting to play with what we call it as, AI in IA, it starts with an holistic analysis of company data uses and how you're trying to deal with that. And I hope some of you would agree with me. This is more of a cultural thing. We have the tone at the top we talk about. I remember in my previous organization, Infosys, we used to have a very interesting saying, which was made popular by Nandan Nilekani. It was like, in God we trust, for everything else, bring the data. So no more gut feeling or no more, decisions taken on basis of gut feeling that, oh, we'll do this, let's do that and play with that. Not at all. The idea was basically to have a proper understanding what our data are, where they are, how we can use it. And if it's not there, let's try to basically collect that. If it's not there, let's try to have that with us. Second is the finance on audit function cannot be anymore stay in isolation, we call it up. It's actually now merged. It's all, anything which happen in other function. I see a lot of time the operations will come and say to the audit function, hey, you know what, we are planning to do something like this. And, this is going to be the impact and all thing. If you are going to change your audit plan or anything, please do that. It's interesting. It's good. We are actually becoming a valued advisor to the business because there's not just finding fault, but it's trying to do that. And the third one, I already told you about the data-driven business processes where data plays an important role. And that's something which I really want to show it because that's something I'm sure all of you heard about process mining. This is one of the area which is very, I love it because when I used to always go for reviews and all that thing, I remember one thing which used to happen. So we used to try to see that, okay, this is the SOPs, what it says, and we want to see how much is the compliance with SOPs, all your standard operating processes and all things, are you doing it up? And they used to say, yeah, everything is cool, great, and all the thing. And we used to also take our one of the sampling process and all thing. But the moment I discovered process mining, I said, no more doing more the way we are doing it up, because this is actually using AI and IA in a real great way. I'll actually show you an example where you are trying to take the timestamp of every event which has happened in your organization. It can be an order to cash, procure to pay, you name it up, and then try to basically work on that. And I'm sure many one of you have also seen it happening because process mining gives you a lot of things that people cannot say anything. Like, earlier I can say, oh, I'm actually compliant, 100% compliant to the process. But when you basically try to see what is happening, then you realize, no, we found that 60% of your, let's say, procure, P2P processes, there are some kind of changes which are happening. You are actually amending your POs more than 60% of the time. Now that means something is not okay. So those kind of things are something which adds a lot of value. I'll try to show you one example of that also. Maybe just give me 1 second. I'll try to see if I can. Have something which is, let me just quickly show you an example here. Hope it is visible. Okay, let me close this. So you can see there's something like, this is what we call it as the happy path. Okay. Happy path basically will say that how the whole process map is happening. This is the process map. I don't know if it's totally visible or not. Let me try to zoom in a little bit. Okay. Give me 1 second. Okay, I'll just try. So basically what I'm trying to say is, you are trying to see the process which is there. And I want to see how many different way this process is working. Okay. So I try to see the process map and then I try to analyze this map in a different way. I try to see what are the activities, what are the hierarchy which is there. So you can see there are, this is the how processes are, working it out there. But are they really following the path? Are there, can you see the PO release? Out of 139,000 PO which was released, 64,000 has been amended. Now, does this show something good, bad, or is there some issues out there? Now, we need to actually understand DAO's part in more detail. And you can also see the process, how it is basically moving. What are the key things which are going it out? It will try to bring it out there. So at every level, I can analyze my processes, the variations which are there in my process map, and understand for myself what is happening. Now, those things are which basically brings us to what we call as the data-driven business processes. And earlier it used to be a big process and all thing, but this is there now, part of every Office 365 which is there, and leading to other things like technology-enabled business transformation. And the last one, which is the most interesting one, and I would like to put some thing, is my favorite also. We call it the culture of experimentation. So what I mean by this concept of culture of experimentation? Now, friends, let me ask you one question. Can anyone tell me what is the average age of a company on Fortune 500 list? It would be something around, you'll be shocked to know this one, that on an average, this is 3.5 years maximum. It is not more than that, it will be there. So basically, what I'm trying to bring out here is 3.5 years is a very short time, okay? Now, in this kind of cases, we need to have a clear understanding that what are the difference between companies which are there for a very long time, and what is the difference between the companies which are not there for a long time. If you take that example, you will find one very interesting thing, that the companies which are there for longer thing are companies which try with a lot of, I would call it controlled risk taking. They analyze new areas, they try to work on new work. They have a culture of experimentation. The same example I gave you for Google, which is Google has something called Google Graveyard. They have a lot of products which never made it up on that. They were never, out there in terms of making it up that. So those kind of things are also something which takes a lot of understanding in terms of dealing with that. So those are the 5 areas which defines the finance and audit functions of the future. And as I was, sorry, this took us some time. And this is what I was trying to show you at that time, that what you're seeing is your, regular, it was not loading that time. So it's regular procure to pay process, procure resolution, PO created, PO submitted. But when you actually try to see how much they are meeting with the actual paths which are getting established, you will find that it is much more complicated than how it is really happening. And when we analyze this process mining, that time we understand that, okay, these are all the things which are happening, which should have not happened. Now, the point which I'm trying to bring out here is this directly shows a data-based decision-making, what I was telling you, data-driven business process, where that, yes, if you're telling your SOPs are being followed, we don't see them being followed. Here is the evidence which says it's not being followed out here. So this is how it is changing that. Now, coming to the point, which is very important for all of us to understand, and this is something which is coming from, this is actually one of the survey by MIT Sloan and Capgemini, who said that 90% of the CEO, they believe that digital economy and all this changes and disruption is going to impact their industry. But very few people, only 15% of them actually think that they need to do something on that. So, that's something which we call as, we are in a kind of a state of, chalta hai, hoga, we'll see that. We talk about that, but no one basically wants to work on that. Now, that's something is the thing I told you, the culture of experimentation. The companies which are going to survive in future are not the one which are, being in the top, but the one which has got a culture of experimentation, who are ready to basically try that, okay, let's try, see, we'll take limited risk, not a very high risk. We'll try to understand how we can actually deal with that, and then take it forward in terms of dealing with that. So that ends our first part, the genesis. Now let's try to understand one specific part of the whole digital disruption gambit, which is AI, and how it has evolved. Okay, so this part of AI in its evolution, it has come a long way. We had Elon Musk trying to talk about, saying that we are going to be the bootloader of artificial intelligence and we are going to make it up. But he has more companies on artificial intelligence than anyone can think of, and we all know about that. From there, we also go back to a very, very long time. This whole concept of AI, I would say it's not new. It's actually there for a very, very long time. You can see this is an MIT paper, which is of 1966. It's long, long back. And in this, you need to understand one whole concept, which is in a different way, that they had at that point of time talked about pattern recognition. They have been talking about that in such a long time back, but they didn't have one thing that point of time, which we have today, the computing power and the whole concept of how we can actually deal with that. Now that differentiate us in terms of how we deal with that. Now, I just thought instead of I trying to talk a lot about that, why don't I just try to show you a quick 2 minutes video on this one, which basically gives us the same messaging, what we wanted to give it to you. And it also brings it down to this whole concept that when we are talking about artificial intelligence, it's just like, ability of the computer to think and learn, something like, have you heard about a gentleman, Alan Turing? So he famously gave a Turing test. You can just Google it out, Turing test. And the Turing test is that when you are interacting with a machine or a human, and you are not able to differentiate whether you're talking to a human or a machine, the machine has passed the human test. And we deal with some of the machines today, you don't are able to understand, okay, that it's, basically, is it working in the way we are looking for, or is it different? So that exactly is how AI is done. And it has many, many different areas which it works on. But before I go more into that, I have just a small 2 minutes video for you to understand, so that, instead of I just going about that for a much longer time, we all can understand it up better in terms of how it happens in, in a way of seeing this in terms of the processes and other things, how this whole concept of AI would be working with that. Just 1 minute, second.
Every day.
Okay, so. I hope you can see the screen. Yeah.
Every day, a large portion of the population is at the mercy of a rising technology, yet few actually understand what it is. Artificial intelligence. You know, HAL 9000 and Marvin the Paranoid Android. Thanks to books and movies, each generation has formed its own fantasy of a world ruled, or at least served, by robots. We've been conditioned to expect flying cars that steer clear of traffic and robotic maids whipping up our weekday dinner. But if the age of AI is here, why don't our lives look more like the Jetsons? Well, for starters, that's a cartoon. And really, if you've ever browsed Netflix movie suggestions or told Alexa to order a pizza, you're probably interacting with artificial intelligence more than you realize. And that's kind of the point. AI is designed so you don't realize there's a computer calling the shots. But that also makes understanding what AI is and what it's not a little complicated. In basic terms, AI is a broad area of computer science that makes machines seem like they have human intelligence. So it's not only programming a computer to drive a car by obeying traffic signals, but it's when that program also learns to exhibit signs of human-like road rage. As intimidating as it may seem, this technology isn't new. Actually, for the past half a century, it's been an idea ahead of its time. The term artificial intelligence was first coined back in 1956 by Dartmouth professor John McCarthy. He called together a group of computer scientists and mathematicians to see if machines could learn like a young child does, using trial and error to develop formal reasoning. The project proposal says they'll figure out how to make machines use language, form abstractions and concepts, solve kinds of problems now reserved for humans, and improve themselves. That was more than 60 years ago. Since then, AI has remained for the most part in university classrooms and super secret labs, but that's changing. Like all exponential curves, it's hard to tell when a line that's slowly ticking upwards is going to skyrocket. But during the past few years, a couple of factors have led to AI becoming the next big thing. First, huge amounts of data are being created every minute. In fact, 90% of the world's data has been generated in the past 2 years. And now, thanks to advances in processing speeds, computers can actually make sense of all.
So guys, I was told that some people are not able to hear the audio. I have already shared the audio thing, so it should be, can you just, Madhuri ma'am, are you?
I'm able to hear.
Okay, okay. Sorry.
Not sure. Maybe you should just switch on the speakers. Or,
Yeah,
I don't know,
please.
but I'm able to hear. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
No, I'm just telling. Maybe Harish has written and
Yes,
Vijay
yes,
Lakshmi.
yes.
Yeah, but I think I'm
Okay.
able to hear. So.
This information more quickly. Because of this, tech giants and venture capitalists have bought into AI and are infusing the market with cash and new applications. Very soon, AI will become a little less artificial and a lot more intelligent. Now the question is, should you brace yourself for yet another Terminator movie live on your city streets? Not exactly. In fact, stop thinking of robots. When it comes to AI, a robot is nothing more than the shell concealing what's actually used to power the technology. That means AI can manifest itself in many different ways. Let's break down the options. First, you have your bots. They're text-based and incredibly powerful, but they have limitations. Ask a weather bot for the forecast, and it will tell you it's partly cloudy with a high of 57. But ask that same bot what time it is in Tokyo, and it'll get a little confused. That's because the bot's creator only programmed it to give you the weather by pulling from a specific data source. Natural language processing makes these bots a bit more sophisticated. When you ask Siri or Cortana where the closest gas station is, it's really just translating your voice into text, feeding it to a search engine, and reading the answer back in human syntax. So in other words, you don't have to speak in code. At the far end of the spectrum is machine learning, and honestly, it's one of the most exciting areas of AI. Like a human, a machine retains information and becomes smarter over time. But unlike a human, it's not susceptible to things like short-term memory loss, information overload, sleep deprivation, and distractions. But how do these machines actually learn? Well, while it may be easy for a human to know the difference between a cat and a dog, for a computer, not so much. You see, when you're only considering physical appearance, the difference between cats and dogs can be a little gray. You can say cats have pointed ears and dogs have floppy ears, but those rules aren't universal. Between tail length, fur texture, and color, there are a lot of options. And that means a lot of tedious rules someone would have to program manually to help a computer spot the difference. But remember, machine learning is about making machines learn like humans. And like any toddler, that means they have to learn by experience. With machine learning, programs analyze thousands of examples to build an algorithm. It then tweaks the algorithm based on if it achieves its goal. Over time, the program actually gets smarter. That's how machines like IBM's Watson can diagnose cancer, compose classical symphonies, or crush Ken Jennings at Jeopardy! Some programs even mimic the way the human brain is structured, complete with neural networks that help humans, and now machines, solve problems. Generations have long imagined the ramifications of AI, visualizing a society where machines seek revenge and wreak havoc on human society. However, the more logical and pressing question is, how will AI affect your job? Will it make your work obsolete? Just like the Industrial Revolution, it's not human versus machine, it's human and machine versus problem. The point is that artificial intelligence helps you accomplish more in less time, taking on the repetitive tasks of your job while you master the strategy and relationships. That way, humans can do what they do best, be human.
So this was a quick video which just talked about the fundamentals, because a lot of time, I always say this is to a lot of my friends that, knowing what is AI and what is not AI is more important than knowing AI. Not knowing, you should know what is not AI. Because a lot of time, everything is being, packaged as AI, but that is not AI. So that's something which we need to understand it out there. Now, if I have to take it forward from the, the video which we saw, if you see, there are multiple different ways AI works, starting from robotics to planning to speech to text. What we have seen, we are using it with Alexa. It's like, the most interesting thing is today, it's no more a kind of a big deal. You can see the subtitles coming out here, and it will be just like whatever I'm saying. It's just being typed out here, and it has come a long way, right? It's there in Microsoft, and we have Copilot is the latest issue. We are seeing all that kind of changes, which was never out there. Now, this is also an artificial intelligence, and for some of you who think this is very simple, I don't know how many of you here have ever used one solution called Dragon Naturally Speaking. Then, this is, I don't know, this is like in the year 2004, 2005. Yeah, Kelvin and other would have used it. Yeah, I can see some raising their hand. Okay, this is interesting. Yeah, Vijayalakshmi, you have also used it. Good. So this is used to be like something very, very interesting. We have to train the software for more than 1 hour, and then also it will talk about some rubbish. Now, what you're seeing is out here is being very interestingly done. And, as I told you, I dictated half of my book because it was easier for me to dictate instead of typing it up myself. So those is also artificial intelligence. And you see this in vision, right? I'm sure some of you are using Google Lens, and Google Lens is used for translating document. We used to have these issues many times. We don't know which language it is, blah, blah, blah. And those kind of things, it works it out. Machine vision is being used many places in industrial use and all that kind of thing. And then we have the NLP, the natural language processing, where it has moved to NLP to LLM right now. We call it large language models, chat GPT of the world and all of the thing, which basically has a huge data to train, and basically it works it out there. And the most interesting one is something called machine learning. And I'll go a little deep into machine learning, but it is something like, I would have to say that all of these things, what you're seeing it here, in some small form or that, it was earlier already there. But today it has changed because of multiple things. Like, for example, how many of you have, worked on macros? I'm 100% sure if you are in, in audit or interlog function, you have created macros to continuously do the stuff and all things. We all have done it, right? Now, what actually happens when you record a macro? You're recording a macro. What actually happens on the back end is it will write the codes in Visual Basic, right? Agree? And that concept is called as CASE, Computer Assisted Software Engineering. I hope I'm clear when I'm saying this term. See, I'm again telling you my reason of using this technology term is not to confuse you, but to make it much easier for you to understand. Let me give you an example here, okay? So I have a blank document, and I wrote, this is a test, right? My main objective is to tell you that, a lot of us, we have this, I don't know why, but I always see this, that we have a genuine fear of technology. We should not. We should try and play with that because it's very interesting. So this thing, I will save it as, let's say I have to browse where I can figure it out where it is. Let's say picture. And instead of saving it as a Word document, I will save this one as a web page, right? And save this one. Done. This is a test. This is there. I close it, and let me open one of my, okay, here we have my picture. You can see this is the file we just created right now, okay? I will just open this file. And this is the file which is out there right now. This is a test. Now, I hope it is actually a HTML file now. Hypertext Markup Language. HTML is something which is a programming language. Now, I will just see the source code. This is the source code which is there, right? How many lines of source code has been written out here? Can you see this, guys, here? It's around 770 lines of, source code which has been written. who wrote this source code? Did I write it or did the machine write it? The machine, right? Yeah. This is called CASE, Computer Assisted Software Engineering. It is also the same concept which is used in macro. And I hope you know macros as a concept is there since, I don't know, 2005, 2007. I'm seeing this macro as out there. It's a very long time we have been using macro. So when you record a macro, it just write it up. Now, this code was written by the machine, right? Imagine a machine can write its own code, which we had just done it, by seeing the data. Does it make sense? I'm just trying to actually explain you in a very easy way what is machine learning. So let me make it more simpler for you. One of the areas of artificial intelligence is machine learning. In machine learning, what happens is, in traditional problem solving, you will define the logic, programming sequence, step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. The coding will be done. You connect to the data source and you get a result. Now, that is the traditional way of doing things. In machine learning, it's totally different. You basically give your data to the machine to read and understand. From the data, the machine will understand what is the learning model which it has for it. The programming will be done by the machine itself, and it will give you a result. Sounds interesting or sounds scary? I would say sounds interesting, because now you are opening up the data. See, do you agree to one point that humans have biases? We do have a lot of biases. When we go there, we'll say, oh, this is supposed to happen like this. Machine don't have those biases, which basically helps the machine to see the data in a n number of way compared to how humans look at that. And that exactly is what machine learning do. It reads the data set, it makes its own assumption, and based on that, it does its programming so that it says, I can give you a result on this way. I hope it is clear. I know it's a little tough topic, and that's the reason I have thought of, like, as a, before we proceed, I can take few questions if Madhuri ma'am, agrees here for people who may have some doubts on this whole concept, what is there.
Sure, definitely, sir. Definitely.
That's fine, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So guys, yeah. So guys, feel free to type your questions if you have any right now. And I see some questions which are already typed. I'll just quickly cover here. Saurav has talked about Superset. Yes, Saurav, that is also one of the good tool which can be used out there. There are hundreds of open source and free. You're right, perfectly. Bashir, okay, we answered your question, Bashir. Okay, done. We have a question from Mr. Harish. I think it will be there on the IIA website. And Prasanna sir has a question, which is, okay, he has a question. How does it differ than other audit software? Okay, I would say, see, our audit softwares are good. They are actually doing some task of data analysis and all things. But process mining, Mr. Prasanna, what it does is, I will just go back for a second and show it to you. It cannot do something which, process mining as a concept itself is different. And I will be upfront with you. The people who invented this whole concept were Accenture, but then the whole world took it over. So you can see this is called the happy path, P2P. We call it as, okay, I'm trying to give the thing. What is the step 1, step 2? PO is created, PO is submitted, PO is released, good received, GR accounted, IR done, invoice entered, and invoice is accounted. This is how the standard work works. But when you started to see these activities, did you see that there have been many times after purchase acquisition, they have changed the PO after, like PO was created, it was then PR was raised. So it shows something is not okay in the all activity. You see more activities coming up, and when we start to see the new paths which are there, Mr. Prasanna, you can see. So process mining is a very different concept altogether. It's evolving. So how does it take it? In your ERP system like SAP, Oracle, or any transaction processing system you're using, you have a timestamp when this event has opened. And those timestamps will be analyzed by this server, and they will make a new path for you to take that forward. So this is one of the kind of thing which is there. Okay, Nikhil, I hope I have answered it. As I answered live, yeah. Can you get us on how you use all this? Okay, I'll give you some, when we say the use cases, Nikhilesh, we will be actually talking about that. And Rajul says one example which I've shown procurement. This is Power Automate. It's actually part of Office 365. You go and talk to your IT guys. They will say it is different. Okay. Saurav has a very interesting question. What is the difference between ML and RPA? So please understand this. Okay. RPA, robotic process automation, is a tool like Power Automate, which is there in front of you. You can see this, solution. I'm just, by the way, there are hundreds of UiPath, automation anywhere. Hundreds of tools are there. I'm not trying to say one is better than other or anything. Please, you can actually choose anything. Even there is a solution called 9, open source. It also does the same thing. So basically, RPA basically means I am actually doing step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. I'm just trying to mimic a human step. Go to this one, do this, do that, and all things. That is basically RPA. Machine learning has intelligence. It basically analyzes it. It has predictive understanding. Imagine if I can predict for you in a bank which account of yours is going to become an NPA, or if I can predict that which unit of your organization there is going to be a fraud risk. That's going to be a power of machine learning, because it will try to analyze the past data. More data it gets, it can do that. I hope that answers your question, Saurabh. Amita has a question. The output of process mining would again be dependent on quality of data. Could AI help? Yeah. There is nowadays, Amita, there are a lot of solution which is called the data cleansing part. It takes care of that, so it can always help it to take care of that. Saurabh says process map is quite fascinating. You can use 1 minute. Let me open it up for you. I showed you a. You can open. I'm actually not telling any solution or thing. I am just giving examples what you can use. You can actually use a tool called KNIME, K-N-I-M-E. You can drop me a mail. I can send you the thing. You can use it for doing it out on KNIME if you want open source. Sumit says, is there process mining a tool need to get it done from? So it's you take the data, like if you have SAP, take the tables of SAP. I can give you the list and just put it up there. Automatically can just run it up there. And how to use machine process mining, Ajay? So the answer is very simple. You take your SOP. So if your organization is saying this is the SOP, you try to see how much variation to the SOP you are getting it up. More the path, more variation. I'll just try to show it once again. Here it is. Can you see this concept? Okay. Can you see it here? This shows the different variances. You can also do a root cause analysis and all things. And basically this happens. This is the different path your processes are taking. So this is supposed to be your path, which should be there. Can you see how many? Only 15% of the process is taking this path. So there are so many variances are there, which is not a good thing. The less the variance, the better it is there. So, and by the way, let me tell you one thing, which is very interesting. All of these things happens automatically. You don't have to do. You have to just put the data. It automatically just goes up and takes it. That's analyzing the process mining is more important. And doing this is the easiest part. Why it happened like this? Why there was this PO change happen and all the thing? That is the biggest part. One of my mentor is now the CEO for ExxonMobil, and he was telling me, Anand, making this process mining, every Tom, Dick, and Harry can do it. But how to analyze it is more important, which only IIA function guys can do that, because they know, oh, this is why it has happened out there, and taken it out there. And last questions. Okay, there is one. Prasanna, so what depicted revenue will have an exception report? Yes, you're right. That not just exception report. So you're visually analyzing it up and taking it up there. Amrita, that answer is already there. RCA, yes, it does. RCA is the root cause analysis and all things. Very well, it can do that. And the reporting, and in fact, I don't know if you know this, nowadays, I can name one of client because they are doing it via NDA. They are using that on the analysis. If you go and try to see it, there are LLMs, right? ChatGPT. So it automatically tells you why this happened. You don't have to type the report out there, and it can work it out there. Saurabh, can it be linked to ERP? Yes, most of this can be linked to ERP, and you can work on that. Okay, so great. We actually got the first part of the things right, but no one asked me questions on machine learning. I hope you are clear on the machine learning part. That is most important, because our next part will go a little, you are seeing the use cases which are going to be more complicated, friends. So I hope here we can all be sure of that. Ranjan, Ranjan, you are very good. This question is right. It can analyze the process map deviation, but what happens is it will give you one analysis out there. But as a humans, we can see it in a more better perspective and take it forward. I hope that answers the question. Okay. Yeah, Mr. Bashir, that will decide on many multiple factors, actually. I can just share you some document which can help you on that one on this. Yeah. Okay, so coming back, guys, let's try to see some more points out here. So this is what we were actually talking about on, the list which is there, which we are actually talking about here. Let's try to see how it actually happened. So, there are three concepts, they call it up: unsupervised, supervised, and all thing. I'll come to that question, Akash. We'll just finish this and then I'll take out more questions, okay? So here we'll take one very interesting point, okay? I will try to see this concept of I have a set of data and I tell this data to the machine. So in the supervised, I will tell the machine, hey, you know what? I would like you to see if there is a deviation between this is that. That would be an example of supervised learning. Like I'll give you one example, a real example, what we did, very interesting. So one of the client had what we call it as a third-party risk management review going on. And they had in North America, they have something around 200,000 vendors, okay? And they wanted to say which are the vendors we should actually, put through the third-party risk management audit this time. We don't want to do it for all of them. Which are the one which looks suspicious? Now, one way was you go with a gut feeling, you do that. The other way was to use machine learning, supervised. In supervised, what was done was very interesting. And let me explain you what was the thing. So we took some parameters, like, something around 40 parameters, which you put in Excel, something like from the vendor master data. Is this a new company whom we have given a big order? Is the company contact details are something at gmail.com? Do we have some, a reference to this company on Dun & Bradstreet DNB database or all not that? Is there any blacklist information like this? We have 40 parameters. Now that 40 parameters was taken for all the 200,000 organization. Then we got one of the very senior audit team member who has done multiple third-party risk management review to basically say, you take 100 of the list, and from this 100, which are the one which looks, suspicious to you, which is like something which is not easy, looks suspicious, something is funny. And on a gut feeling, he said, out of this 100, others 5 look suspicious to me. And there is no justification because, it's just like you see this, okay, company's address is not there on Google Map, blah, 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 some analysis, and they brought it up. Once it was done, we run the same 100 data set. It was like, supervised on the rest of the data. Like just the way the person has come out with the exceptions, the machine also has to come out with the exceptions. And it did a feature extraction based on that same model and gave us some result. When we showed it the result back to the gentleman, he said, no, I didn't thought of like that. But then once again, we actually asked him to do on 100 more data. That was a new data set, we gave it up. And he ran the same thing out here. And ultimately, it was amazing. We got a very interesting thing which never happened. And I would say we were lucky. Usually, in any ERP, there is a duplicate payment check. So you have a check like for the same PO, you can't pay twice. But we found a kind of case where there was a duplicate payment and it came as a suspicious third-party risk. The reason was very simple. Why the machine actually flagged that as a suspicious or something which is not okay. The reason was this company has merged with one of the other company. And this both were vendors to this organization. And by mistake, the organization has done dual payment, once to the existing entity and then to the merge entity. Now, those kind of one in a kind of, concept, one of the exceptions can come it up, which we couldn't have even thought of that. So it can help in doing grouping of object, classification, predicting and all things. And I'll show you some use cases of this, live use cases, how people are using it. So the point is that there are hundreds of models you can do it from fraud detection to customer retention to forecasting, prediction, process optimization, trying to see, any of the real-time decisions you can take it up. Hundreds of ways the solution can be there. And when I say there are hundreds of ways the solutions is there, I just wanted to take a small, deviation from the discussion. So I attended one very interesting session by one gentleman called Dr. Devi Shetty. So Dr. Devi Shetty, I'm sure all of you have heard about that. If some of you don't heard about that, he's the MD of Narayan Hridayalaya. Now, Dr. Devi Shetty was actually called around 2 years back at a digital transformation conference as a keynote speaker. And I was actually also presenting a paper in that. So after my talk was there. And I was actually curious that there is a doctor who is going to come and talk about digital transformation. And it was an interesting session, guys. Why? I'll tell you. And he gave it up. He gave a very interesting example. He said, see, guys, there are knives and different types of knife. The whole skill set lies in knowing which one to use at when. And that is exactly the key part. He said, all of you have, he said, one of the big problem which we were facing in case of his day-to-day work was transcription of every case. He deals with hundreds of, I would say operations on a daily basis. And he wanted to know which one the transcriptions has to be done. And many times there were errors in transcription. So he thought, why don't I use one of the features which is there in every mobile phone right now? If you have actually using a mobile phone, the moment you put your keyboard, have you seen that you have this one mark which is there where you can actually press the button and you can speak it up? So he started using it for transcription. I'm talking about 2-3 years back, he was doing that. And then he found an issue. The issue was very interesting. The issue was whenever he was doing this transcription, some tongue twisters, which will be there, tongue twisters that are medical terms and other things, they were something which was coming up in terms of, understanding and all things. And those tongue twisters were not coming up clearly. So what was the solution this gentleman came out? And that is very interesting. His solution was very, very simple. He asked one of his junior to do only one thing, and what was that one thing he asked them to do? He told them that please add all these tongue twisters as, as my, what we call it as contacts in the phone. The moment you add them as a contact in the phone, friends, what happens? It basically, the moment you put it up as a contact, it would be easily read by the machine and there is no issue at all. And that exactly happened in case of Mr. Devi Shetty. So all these solutions are there. We need to think of how we can use it up there. And that brings us to understand the concept of how IA leaders can leverage the power of it. Now, here I would like to go a little deep into, I would say, the relationship which we have of IA with AI. This is on this 5 different domains, and you can choose how you would like to use it to work on that. But ultimately, it will be on the same thing which you are seeing it on the screen. So either you can actually play the role of what we call it as, automator, which is very simple. You need to automate something. You want to bring it to that quickly and take that forward. And that can be handled by AI for you. Or you can use it as a decider for you. When AI has a plenty of context, it can actually decide for you. Like for example, in machine learning, we can decide which account we need to look into that, which account will become NPA, blah, blah, blah. You can just do it up. It can also be a recommender. Like if you're trying to do a repetitive task and all things, and AI has some missing context, it can actually try to give you that recommendation that how do you deal with that. And I'll show some examples also of that. And my favorite is this one, which I call it as Illuminator. And this is something which is very interesting. See, as human, we can see things from maximum 2 or 3 dimensions. Machines don't have that problem. Machines can see things in n dimension. When I use the word n dimension, it can be from multiple way. I'm sure all of you have done pivoting and all things. We take the same data, we pivot in different way and see it up. So it can actually see the data into very much that. And this insights, I hope you have seen ChatGPT, how well it answers. And the latest version, which has been updated by September 2023. Oh my God, it is like beautiful. And the prompt engineering is a new area. So I would say this AI generated insights are the new way of looking at that. Think of them as, cherry on the cake. You have already done it, but you are also taking one, it's something like going to one doctor. And if you get something else, you try to take it from, an expert advice from a second opinion also. You can take it that as a second opinion in terms of dealing with that. But so those are the way you can actually deal with that. And the last one, which is very, very interesting, and this is now being possible by the LLMs, which is there, when there are not very informations and you want to do some simulations or some kind of scenario generation, it can do amazing stuff. So the relationships can be in either of these 5 buckets, which you can actually think of in terms of dealing with that. Now, the most interesting thing is what we see nowadays, everyone. AI is a big, thing. Every organization is using some part of the thing. And when we actually go for it, I would say the learning which is there, I thought I'll put it in one slide for you before we go into the use cases. And the learning was, friends, very simple, that the first step would be always to understand what AI is and what AI is not. Because, if you try to see, oh, this is AI, not everything is AI. You have to ask a little tough questions whenever someone says, oh, this is AI. How do you mean it is an AI? Is it not just a visualization, or is it something which you're trying to bring it up that? So we need to act and understand that. We have to also see where the problem statement lies. Just like I'm sure a lot of people of you here, I was into ERP implementation for a very long time in Infosys. I was GRC and FICO consultant. So I do understand, your current business processes. We need to see them for the challenges, because not two organizations are same. Even two organizations in, let's say, pharma industries will not be same. They have different challenges, different way, and we need to analyze them in that context and take that forward. The third, and that is some people have asked questions also. Okay, so I would say that is very important, that you adapt a data-driven culture, and this is always a key challenge. I think Akash also asked this question. Many times we'll see that you don't have the full data, but guys, this is a challenge with every other organization. You will not be the first person to do that. I always say this, that data-driven culture, it is like a chicken and egg story. Either you can say I should have data, then I'll start, or you can say I'll start playing with the thing. It is something like all of you have experienced at some point of time, single entry system of bookkeeping. Remember that time? Single entry system of bookkeeping used to be there. So what used to happen in single entry system of bookkeeping? You don't have the full picture out here. You know something, you don't know 100% of everything, but you know something. Now that is interesting part which we need to understand, that you will be actually doing it. And as and when we become mature, you will actually start having access to more and more, I would say, access which are there, and, take that forward. So I would say adopt a strong data-driven culture. You can actually decide on whether you want to do in-house, outsourcing, or co-sourcing. So in-house will be totally your team, which you hire and train it up. Outsourcing, you completely depend on that. Or the best option, which always, people are now trying, is co-sourcing. You try to take some help from outside, some in-house, and then you develop it up. Because ultimately, guys, you have to make it, what we call as, everyone has to become a techno-functional guy. There is a new term now, ABCD is everyone can be a data scientist, everyone can be a person. And that is exactly the thing. You have to try on your AI strategy. What are the things you're going to do with? There are hundreds of tools. Process mining is one. LLM, I'll show you one example. We'll show you some machine learning example. Now you have to decide what you want to do that. And the next point was so important. I intentionally put it twice just to focus the importance on that. This is very important. See the big picture, but don't go for a big bang approach when you're trying to do that. See, AI is actually a kind of thing. It has worked for some people very well. For some people, it has not worked. You need to take what we call it as calculated risk. Start with small projects. Show some what we call it as value add in terms of, oh, this is something which has brought out some very interesting thing. The management likes it. We got some new insight. We never had it. So take up the areas which are always the problem statement and take it up. This is a very important learning. And that's the thing I actually wanted to focus on this more than anything else. That if you are trying to do this, you need to actually have a very simple concept of thinking big, starting small. And the most important thing is blitz scaling, which is nothing but you have to go fast. Once you are there, you can always deal and take that forward in a fast way. And, this is very interesting. Realize that innovation steers the competition. This is true. I'll give you one simple example. I don't know how many of you have seen the financials of Goldman Sachs. You should check out our financials. And if you see, I remember we used to always see the director reports. And Goldman Sachs always spent close to around, they would have a turnover of around 75 billion, and they would be spending 7 to 8 billion, which is around 8 to 10% of their turnover on technology. And the statement which always used to happen in our director's report is, technology gives us an edge over our competition. And that edge is something which always give it a kind of a starting point in terms of dealing with that and taking it forward. So that brings me to the next area of use cases. I thought it's better, instead of blah, blah, too much of blah, blah. I know it's already 2 hours on a weekend. Having you guys here, 183 people, I'm so sorry. But let me just jump into that and then we'll take our Q&A or ask me anything. So here, let me try to give you some examples here. Okay. And I will try to also see if I can, I'm just loading some of the thing. Think of in accounts payable, if you can have a solution where you can identify the frauds and revenue leakage, in predicting of customer defaults, and all these things are actually success stories, which means it has been done and done. The graveyard part, I'll show you separately. There are a lot of things which are, things. So what is prediction of customer default? Imagine you have a dealer network and you have a pattern of every dealer. So all the past defaults which has happened, if you can actually, put it in the machine learning, it can actually predict for you that which is the next one, the dealer in your network, which is going to go it up there. And one area which is very interesting, and I would actually request you to pay attention, because this is for both finance and employment function, both, is spend analytics. Here they are using machine learning and other insights to go into the procurement spends, where the money is going, because we all know that everywhere we are hearing, there's a recession coming and all things. And one is trying to, a dollar saved is a dollar earned. So are there a possibility of finding out more efficiency, which is there? I will show you there are models which can actually predict you for this material code, you should go to this vendor. Based on the yield and other kind of thing and multiple parameters, you can actually say that, okay, this vendor is the best for this material code. So if you're putting a PO, it can actually help you do that. Areas like general ledger code review. Oh, this is very interesting. This is something on NLP. So you are 100% sure that not all the GL postings are done correctly. We have seen this happening across the time. And then later, there are some code, there will be some GL code which you are posting and it is a wrong GL code. So the best option is if you have a machine learning model on NLP, natural language processing, it can check it out. That, oh, this model is this last time, if there was a, someone has put a narration like this, then the posting was done here. And then there was a similar narration, the posting was done somewhere else. So it can actually give you, maybe the accuracy will be 80-90%, but it can give you that something is wrong in that way of doing it. Think of collusion of vendors. This is very interesting. Multiple parameters get into that. But if you see a pattern that in your Ariba system, when you're doing a reverse auction, one vendor is winning every time and his bid is coming only 2 minutes before that. I'm just telling you one, scenario. There can be hundreds of scenarios which you can build, and the machine learning can actually predict which are the things which are going to happen. For banks on non-performing assets, and there is one area which I personally like a lot. This is T&E claims. The reason is in travel and entertainment expenses, we see a lot of cases where people. This is like small item. Travel and entertainment is a very small item. Now, what happens is when it's a small item, no one is bothered about that, right? But if you try to quantify it overall, it can become a real big number for a consulting company which has more than 3 lakh people all across the world traveling at the thing. You may want to know what's happening out there. So I'll just show you basically a sanitized version of one of the thing. This is on Concur. I'm sure you've heard about Concur is there. So what you're seeing on the left-hand side are all rule-based analysis, okay? Variances, same level, cash advance, blah, blah, blah. But what you're seeing on the right-hand side is very interesting, okay? This is actually a machine learning, okay? So think of this, that you have a lot of people traveling to Delhi. So when the people travel to Delhi, they have a lot of different types of expenses which are there. But if it is giving a deviation that, okay, this is something which is coming up again and again, we see a deviation. This is actually an algorithm which you can use called a priori. An a priori algorithm can actually do the complete things and tell you that it will do a kind of a food charges, what are the kind of item which was done, what was the things which was set up, how it was taken care of, all of the things, and analyze that for you. So this is a very interesting thing where on a continuous control management perspective, you can actually use machine learning to tell you that, okay, these are some of the things which are not happening properly, okay? Or as I told you on the other part of prediction of which vendor to use for which material code, there are also very interesting codes, machine learning models on that. And what has happened, friends of late is, how many of you have attended any of the, your favorite singer concerts? Like, so this is one of the thing on vendor risk matrix, okay? You can see that which vendor, which material code. It can also give you vendor preferences. All these things are basically, what you're seeing it is machine learning model. It keep on telling you that this is the first preference, this is the second preference for this material code, and you should be using this vendor for this plant and all that kind of thing. Now, how does it do it? It is actually totally on machine learning model. It is trying to see on the yield, it is trying to see on multiple areas, and then it is giving you that kind of analysis. It goes in very much detail, and organizations are using it. It's not like something, just off the leak and all things. People are using it, and they find a lot of use cases which are, better in terms of dealing with that. So that's one of the key things which we need to understand. But there are also some challenges right now, okay? The challenges is when we are using it up in terms of auditing, when you're using it, you need to have a very good understanding of the business. I'll give you one example. Let's say for one of our client was there, where we made this model on machine learning and we gave it to them. They were very happy. Wow, great, this is good. But the same model with the same for another client, when we went, it was not giving the result. The reason is very simple. The first client was giving the vendor, the projects on the basis of L1. L1 vendor will always get the project. But the second client was having a concept of SOB, share of business. So they will not give the vendor, L1 vendor the full business. The business will be divided between 2 or 3 of this person. And that is how it was working. So business understanding, data understanding, having a complete understanding of how you prepare it up. This is all the challenges which are there. And this becomes very important for people to understand and take that forward. And most importantly, when we are deploying it up, if your business changes, your models will also change. That is the thing which we need to know that. And we have to keep that in mind when you are dealing with that. Because we just think that it is going to have a very simple way of dealing with that. It is not going to the way where we can just say, oh, this is the way, I think this is the way it is working. It is based on the business. So if the business gets, away, it also changes that. And this part is more from a perspective of what we call it as your, the open source revolution also, that many of the models are meant for one area to other. So you should know exactly how to be used. So more interesting on this one is, I'm sure all of you have also used a solution like, I don't know, have you used ChatGPT in your organization for document analysis and all things? Because LLMs are the third part. So see, when we are trying to see this understanding of all of the thing, we saw the first part, which was process mining, which was again trying to analyze the data on different perspective, SOPs and all things. Second, we saw this area where we were using, the whole concept of machine learning in businesses where you are trying to see third-party risk management, fraud detection, you are trying to see anomaly. And fundamentally, it is same. I hope you have all remember this term. Linear regression, we have used it up. So what you do in linear regression, you have an X and Y axis. You plot all the dots on the thing and then take that forward. So the most interesting thing which is right now happening in the AI domain, because we are talking about this, is LLMs. Now, all of us know open chat GPT and all things, but there is a challenge. Chat GPT, you cannot put it up your organization document. Can you put it up your organization document, guys there? Anyone? Do you think you will be comfortable putting a NDA or any kind of document out there and say, oh, this is something which is analyzing it up for me, let me try to use these things and take that forward? What do you say? Can you put it up in chat? No. Rahul says no. Amit says no. Yeah. Now, there comes S2 or GPT. Okay, what is S2? I actually personally, I'm a big fan of two solutions. You should use it up. One is Nime. Nime is an open source tool as a platform. You can use it for multiple things. And second one is you can try out S2.ai. Okay, this is, I'm just doing it up here. So what is S2.ai? It's as I told you, democratizing the whole AI concept. So this is open source algorithms. So earlier what used to happen is we used to have to work it out there. But now these are all part and parcel of open source. So what happens is, it's a very interesting thing. It is actually trying to give you all these things there. Like, I don't know, if you see Honey Singh concert and Honey Singh's other song, I'm sorry to say that, but Honey Singh concerts are not so good as Honey Singh song, right? Because they use something called auto-tune, if you know that concept. But same thing, there is auto ML, where you can actually, it will do the machine learning automatically. You have to just connect it with Nime, and you can put your data and your environment and take that forward. Now, they have also come out with something called S2.GPT. And this is a very interesting thing. You can install it on your office laptops and all things. And once you upload a data, you can even give me a data, any data. Let me search for some document which I can upload it up here. I am trying to search because it's very interesting. The way it analyzes the document, okay. Okay, let's see. And the thing which the demo I'm showing is on their website, guys. But my point is that you can always have any kind of, okay, analysis on your environment also, okay. I don't know if I'm getting anything. I think I have one PDF. I can just put it up there. Just 1 second. Okay, this is a book from IICPA. Okay, and let me share my screen. I hope you can see my screen. Okay. I'm sorry, the screen was not visible for some people in between. I'm sorry for that. Yeah, just 1 second. Okay, so here we go. So this is S2.GPT. Okay. S2.GPT. Okay. You can go to the site S2.ai also. And This is the site I was telling you. It has all open source solutions which you can actually play with that. Now, let's try to upload some document. Okay, I'll drop a file here. I have a book, some book which I just saw now, and I am trying to put it up here on the drop the file. Okay, it will take some analysis of this file. Okay, and imagine, so I have seen one of the clients right now using it to the term which they call it is to bring all their audit across the globe to a similar fashion. So the audit reports is put out there, and they have defined some of the keywords, sentiment analysis, that the language should not be very, very complex and all the thing in terms of how they have been putting it out there and taking it forward. But so once this is reading that file, you can ask anything about that. Imagine in contract management how well you can do it up. Last time I actually put one of our contract and says, can you tell me any loopholes into that? And I was shocked that it gave me a loopholes in two of the loopholes in the contract. So it is a machine which is basically trying to do that. It's a big document. I think I did a mistake. So let me see if I can give you a small document. Okay. Anyway, what is about? So what it does, it has multiple models, and you can decide on which models you would like to do that. So the moment I said, tell me about this file, upload a file and do it, ChatGPT and other things have this challenge of doing that. You can actually upload a Excel file with budgeting data and say, can you tell me about these things? It will do it. And the most interesting thing, friends, it works in your environment and take that forward. So this is the power of LLM, which actually it is taking some time to generate. So I think I can take some questions out here. That would be better. Yeah. So you can't see my screen, guys. Okay. Yeah. Okay, Vineet, good question. As I told you, you can actually install this in your environment. So there is no data privacy, because this only for the demo purpose, I'm putting it up here. You can have this in your environment, like in your company's environment. Clear, Vineet? Okay. Okay, there are some other questions. Feel free, other questions. So it says it's a large language model. Now you see, this is different models are there trying to do it. This model has not been able to read it. It's called Llama Chat, but this has already said this document about a declaration of something is there. Okay, and it is trying to see the other things is done. It's a big document. It is taking some time to read it up. If you give me, maybe someone of you have some document to see or process, you can always try to deal with that. So let me put a smaller view out here. This is a very powerful tool, guys. We are actually using it, uploading files from our thing and trying to analyze it. It is really, really very, very powerful in terms of the way it does it. Just give me 1 second. I will try to show if I think I have a document which I can show it. Okay. Which will not be a challenge for all of you. Give me 1 second. Okay. Let's reset this whole thing up. Okay. You can type your question by that time, guys, so that I can actually, by the time my demo gets over, you can actually see this happening. Okay. So H2O GPT. My bad. I should have kept a file ready, but we use it so extensively that sometime, here we go. Okay. Yeah, I have a Adobe scan ready of an NDA document. Let me put that here, okay? And then ask question. It's a smaller file. That was a 180 pages file, so it was taking some time to process, okay? So this is a standard, some NDA which we signed with some other organization. And it has, I hope it has read it up. It is, say it was fast in reading it up. So I'll say, what is the document about? So it's processing the thing, and I'm asking it what is this document is all about, and let's see what is the answer we get here. It's processing. It takes some time. See, this is actually inside your environment. It's not as fast as ChatGPT and all thing, because that is a web-based analysis and all thing. And I hope you know the computing power they use is very high. A large language model requires a lot of computing power. So I asked the same thing to multiple models. You can see there are 4 to 5 models, and it is trying to process and tell me what is this document about. And I'm sure it will give us some interesting answer. It will generate the answers for you. Now, why I'm actually showing this and not ChatGPT is ChatGPT you can't install in your environment inside your organization. That's the kind of thing, and that is exactly the question Vinil asked us, and how can we do with that? Okay, Malesh, I'll come to your point. So you can see it says this model couldn't tell it, but this document tells something. It is still trying to say no, they are giving some answer. So I need to basically put, oh, it is actually still processing. Let it process this document, and I can ask the same question again to that. But in the meantime, I'll try to answer the question because we have only 10 minutes left. I'll not take it. Okay, so first, Malesh has a question. How can AI be used in SOX context to automate the monitor SOX control? Very good question. Malesh, so your RACM or risk control metrics will be there. You have a lot of points which are there when you are trying to put it up there. Now, every time when you do your SOX testing, you basically go through the same process, same step-by-step approach which is there. Now, that can be easily automated, that you can actually get a kind of a risk, intelligence of the whole organization. How many of my controls have passed? How many of them failed? And instead of doing the testing by human every time, it can be deducted, connected with your data pipe, and you can actually have that taken care of that. So imagine that complete RCM, all the controls which you have put it up there are directly connected to the data side of this. There may be some subjective one which you can actually leave it up, but all the other will be automatically taking it up there. And at the time when you want it to be done, it will process it up and take that forward. So those are the way you can do it up. So there is a question from Amit. Is ChatGPT safe in terms of privacy? It is safe in terms of privacy if you are installing it in your environment, organization environment. When I say organization environment, friend, it should be in a server inside your environment, not outside, only then. Okay. Okay, so if you can upload a file which has issue in it, if we can see, okay, Rahul, okay, see, I just uploaded this file, right? Now it has read the thing. So you can see the processing is done. So let me see, what is the file? Crux. Okay, information. Key information. Let me ask some questions. Sometimes you have to ask the right question also, right? I did a spell mistake, but let's try to see how it comes it up there. Okay. It takes some time. Okay. Now, what is the file key information? The file I just uploaded. Here we go. Still processing, but we can see some. Okay, there is some question. We can take it by that time. How can we say? Oh, there are many ways in it can be used in organization. Nicholas, from drafting to doing it up. But that is ChatGPT. I'm talking to S2 GPT. The only reason I'm showing ChatGPT is people are not comfortable uploading their data on ChatGPT. I hope you understand my point, sir. Okay, so this is the file. Now it has read the whole, it was an NDA document. So it is saying this is the, the key information are about company information, legitimacy, and all that kind of thing. The other models are still working on that. So it is possible because this is multiple, there are 4 models which are working right now, and we will see what is the answer which comes it up. Okay, let it do. In the meantime, please understand, again, I'm telling you, don't put any confidential data on the website. Only when you have this installation done in your environment. It is a freely available, LLM model, which is there. You can actually put it in your environment, open source, and you can start using it out. So you can see these are the things, it is giving the company details, something. It has talked about that document. So I asked for the key information. It has told me. Okay. The third one is still generating. The fourth one is generating. Let it generate. No problem. I will ask one more question by that time. And yeah. So based on the information, this says it is some right to retain title, blah, blah, blah. It's an NDA agreement. Let me just ask the fun thing. Is there any loophole in the document? So imagine you have contract, and when we do contract assessment, you have something like dollars and dates. So let us see if there is any kind of what we are talking about loopholes. So it's processing, it may take some time, and then we will end the discussion. So as I told you, okay, now loopholes, I always found some models giving me better loopholes than the other one. Okay, so let's see which one comes up with the loopholes. Got to type submit. My bad. I forgot to type the submit. I am just went off that. So let's see if they can find out any loophole in the document. It's a machine. I hope it is inclusion, because that's something which comes up there. You try it at your end with some dummy document. Don't put any confidential data right now. And the privacy part, as you rightly said, as of now, unless and until you have installed it up in your environment, it is not safe to put any confidential data out there. But if you have it in your environment, you have a server where you have put it out there, I would say play with that. It gives you a very interesting thing. We actually install in one of the server in our office to play with that. And it is giving some funny answers, but it is really interesting. It is learning, the kind of document we upload into that, and then we try to ask questions. It gives us basic interesting out that thing. So it says, okay, come on, you can see there appears to be a potential loophole. Now, don't you think, lawyers were the people who used to find loopholes in the agreement? So it is actually finding some loopholes, and you will see each models will have a different kind of loopholes which can come out of that. So that's something, friends, bring us to an end to our discussion, because I have a lot to share, but we also have a paucity of time. So just to summarize what we discussed, we actually started from the whole genesis part, what we started, how was it done. And then we talked about the most important thing, which is how we can leverage it up there and what are the different forms of that. AI is not just one thing. AI is in the form of machine learning. It is in the form of natural language processing. It is in the form of LLMs. It is in the form of, process mining. It is all across us. It's on us. How do we actually basically deal with that? And it will require us to have a very transformation mindset, because a lot of things which is learning is not important. A lot of things we have to unlearn. The way we are doing it up, we have to unlearn and then take care of that. And then only we can actually move our business to X in terms of the way we see things happening. And that would actually make it in a better way. So with that, guys, I come to an end to my discussion. Thanks a lot for your attention. And I'm sorry, I actually took a lot more time in terms of doing it up. And feel free to let me know if you have any questions, any doubts, I will take it up there. So let me take some questions which are there. Or Madhuri, should I wait?
Please go ahead. So you take some questions. I think there are some answers. Yeah.
Okay, so we have a question from Tushar. Okay, Nikhilesh, I showed it up. Tushar installed in my company. Okay. So are you, Tushar, can I understand that, are you part of the co-pilot model that ChatGPT are using it up? Because, usually we don't see companies putting it up on that one. That's interesting. Maybe you are actually part of the co-pilot. Okay. Can this detect error? Yes, Rahul, it can. I showed you the loopholes and other concepts which are there. Vinil, would you be able to read the PDF document, which is, oh, that's beautiful. Do you know, Vinil, the PDF I actually uploaded right now, that was an NDA, which was an image file, image converted into this one. So this is perfectly a good question. Yes. Krishnadas sir has a question. When organization have to ensure that no customer detriment, how does AI help in sensitizing business without human element involved in strong regulatory scrutiny? Okay, that's something which is very interesting. Okay, I will tell you, my favorite example would be one of my senior, his name is Adesh Gadhare. You can actually Google him up. And Adesh was my senior at Goldman Sachs, and now he was He's now actually head of audit at Society General. I think he just changed to DTCC recently as a head of audit. And Adesh uses a lot of the solutions in a banking environment. All this machine learning, he used NIME and all that open source tools. And as you rightly said, there are organizations are actually trying to do that. The sensitizing of the customer, telling them about that. If you're on customer facing side, yes, there are some of the areas we need to tell them what is feasible, what is not. And as I told you, let me give you an example. I am a faculty at IIM Bangalore, and I teach a subject on fraud analytics after trade paper. I see many times the submission will be done based on ChatGPT. So now we have an anti-ChatGPT tool to check whether the submission is basically on that. So there are both things which are going to happen and work it out. But yes, that's something which we will take some time to take care of that. There are biases which has to come out. Is S2 GPT help in getting data output as we like? Yeah, levels. Yes, it's in Q&A format. Can give you more on Q&A format. It is something like, imagine a huge amount of data or an Excel file, you can do it, and then it can give it to you. But again, I'm telling you, please don't put it up anything without sensitive company data out there. You should install it in your environment and then play with that. That is safe out there. If operational area leverage the same amount of work, what is the perspective how it could be offered? Okay, this is very interesting. So Deepak, this is what I'm seeing right now happening. Earlier we used to have different system for first line of defense, second line of defense, and the third line of defense. Now, slowly what is happening is, and this is something which I see a lot of progressive CAs are doing right now. They will actually take a system, they will make it stable, they will make it work well, and then they will give it to the operation to run it up there. They say, see, we have given the system, we have another versions, we'll be coming it up, but we expect all these things to be already done it up. So don't you think you are in one way boiling the ocean, Deepak? And it's a great upper. You are actually playing the role of what we call it as valued advisor. We took one solution, we test it up, we put it up there, like the solution I showed you on machine learning, and then we give it to the operation. You use it, you run it up there. So you remain the owner, but they are the custodian in terms of taking care of that. Sumit, is it possible? I couldn't get your point, sir. So can you ask the question again? Okay, thanks, Mayank. Then we have, in your view, what are the limitation of? Okay, there are a lot of limitation, Amita. The most important one is biases. When I say biases, Amita, there are a lot of biases. I'll give you one example. There is now a new organization which has come up. This is called IIA. You want to become a member, let me know. I am also part of that. It's called Algorithm Audit Association. So we are now planning to audit the algorithms because there are a lot of biases which comes. I'll give you a simple example. In California, they open a kind of a machine learning model which will see the past data of crimes where the crimes has happened, and the police car will go there. But there was a very high weightage given on one parameter, whether this is a black neighborhood or white neighborhood. And we found that more and more cars are going in black neighborhood. So there was more weightage given. So human biases came into picture. And that is something which we need to eliminate. So yes, there are people who are looking at that. Can you recommend AI tools which can use for AI? See, I would highly recommend it. There are many ones there, but I would tell you, Harsh, if you're starting it, start with open source. So my suggestion is NIME and S2.ai is your go-to place. That is S2.ai. There are hundreds of other things which are there. These are open source. You can play with that and there's no problem at all. Kapil, why all questions are not appearing here? I don't know, Kapil. Okay. Thank you very much. It is always a pleasure. So thank you. I think I've solved all the questions, a lot of questions, 63 questions we had, but it was a pleasure interacting with all of you. Thanks a lot. Thanks.
I should take this opportunity, Mr. Anand, for really thanking you a lot for the amazing insights. I think I've made so many notes in this last 2 hours that I'll have to really get back and see a lot of things. And like most people on the session, I was really excited before this, and it was more than rewarding. For a Saturday evening, I'm sure everybody has other plans, but then definitely this time was really productive. I definitely cannot over-exaggerate that upskilling ourselves is very important. Yes. And we have all learned so much in the last 2 hours. Personally, I have learned so much in more than the last 2 months, I would say. Yes. And in terms of, some takeaways, which just for the benefit of everyone before your drop off, some keywords I made note of are, process mining. That definitely helps us ensure completeness of the audit review to a certain extent. Then artificial intelligence, it generally helps you achieve more in lesser time. And to a certain extent, I think all of us have understood what AI is and what AI is not.
Yes.
The icing on the cake was the real life examples which you gave in the end, along with the challenges. And then I also remember this IA relationship with AI as a recommender, decider,
Yes, ma'am.
eliminator, or evaluator. I think all of this is so key for us in doing our day-to-day work. That's important to go back to these. I think I'd request all of you, go back. If you have any questions, you can definitely come back to us. And I'd really like to thank all the 190 participants, okay, for taking out the time and attending this wonderful session and asking all amazing relevant questions. And in case, I'll take this opportunity to mention that in case all of you are already not a member of the IIA, please do register for more such enriching sessions and to get more benefits. If you have any questions on that, reach out to KPC Rao. He this coordinator at IIA Hyderabad.co. And sir, again, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
And really appreciate you for
Thanks
this
a lot,
amazing session.
It was a pleasure. Thank you, everyone. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye.